riding the Knolly Fugitive LT today. It's a trail bike with 135 millimeters of rear travel and 150 in the front. You can also run it as 160, but I've been running this bike with 150 in the front, and I've been riding it in the slack position because I tend to like a bike with a nice low bottom bracket. Knolly bikes come with this 4x4 suspension. The bike feels very neutral under pedaling. I don't necessarily feel the rear shock rising while pedaling, but I certainly don't feel the bike bobbing either. That could come from slightly shorter rear travel at 135. But either way, this bike has a very peppy pedaling feel while still being quite supple. I really like the amount of reach on the front end. I just feel like with a bike that is a little bit more oriented towards the uphill side of the equation, that reach just kind of puts me in a nice position for hammering on the pedals. This bike has pretty snappy little chain stays at 430 millimeter long, meaning the bike is pretty easy to get around switchbacks and feels a little bit more lively than some of the longer bikes out there. This bike comes with a Fox 36 up front, which kind of alludes to the nature of the beast they were trying to make. It's a very capable bike, despite not being a full-out long travel 29er. Adding to the burly nature of this bike, it comes with Code R brakes, which are plenty powerful and quite reliable, and a Fox Float X2 rear shock for a little bit more oil flow, and a bike that can handle longer descents where the oil's heating up more and provide a little bit more tunability. But what a burly spec for a bike with 135 mils of rear travel. Looks like Knolly had a pretty specific vision in mind, and it's cool to see them doing something a little bit different than just joining the arms race for more suspension and more cush. With the long reach and the kinematics of the 4x4 suspension, I think this bike feels quite good pedaling out of the saddle. Doesn't feel like you're bobbing up and down. Feels like most of your energy is just going straight forward. Another one of the interesting choices Knolly made while making this bike was speccing it with a 157 millimeter rear hub, which gives you the option to run fatter tires on this bike, as well as providing a little bit stiffer wheel. All right, time for the good part of this review. Let's see how she feels downhill. Yeah. Well, it certainly can soak up the bumps. This is quite a rough trail, and I would never honestly know that I've only got 135 millimeters of travel. Quite a plush feeling bike, actually, and pretty easy to push and pull around. Phew. This bike feels quite lightweight too, off of jumps. I don't think it's a particularly light bike, but it feels quite good. Yeah, this bike feels quite this bike feels quite responsive. It's really easy to duck it into a corner. It's got such a nice suspension curve that you can't really tell that the suspension is getting overwhelmed, but you can definitely feel a little bit more of the trail than if you were on a longer travel bike, which I know there's a big market for that. People like to kind of have a nice trail sensation And while you've got the 29-inch wheels, you still have the ability to just completely haul and carry your speed through all that terrain. Wow, yeah, this bike is really nice to corner on these very slippery, muddy corners, and I think that's because of that low bottom bracket. Just keeps the bike very predictable on the limit. It's a great feel. It's kind of just urging me to keep pushing on this fairly greasy day. I just don't feel like I have to hold back. I definitely feel quite a bit like I've got a longer travel 29er. So who is this bike for? This bike is, in my mind, perfect for that rider that wants a capable bike, but doesn't just want a big, monstrous, squishy bike. They want to be able to follow their friends with long travel 29ers wherever they're going, but they want to be that person on the very light, feeling capable bike that gives just a little bit more sensation and trail feedback and doesn't feel at all numb. And of course, pedals better than you would get on a 160 millimeter bike. Oh man. And this bike just loves the corners. I love a bike with a nice low bottom bracket that you can just grip and rip. Woo! Yeah, that's my thing. Super fun, playful bike that isn't so big that it's ever gonna feel cumbersome. But at the same time, that sweet spot of travel, as long as the kinematics are good, which they are, where you're gonna be able to pretty much ride this bike anywhere. Be a great one bike quiver for somebody that rides gnarly terrain and more subtle terrain. So if you like this review, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel and help us out. And for more content like this, head on over to freehubmag.com. Another tree.